Broadcasting from Meredith Hall Studios, you're listening to Covering the Field Sports Show, featuring sports analysts Big Rich Martin, Rockin, Ronnie McKinnon, Gator Gates. And now here's your host, Joe the Answer Ellison.
Welcome everyone to the 1-year anniversary of Covering the Field. We have an amazing show and we're excited to bring it to you. And first up and covering the NBA is our analyst, Big Richard Martin. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Joe. It's great to be on the show. We are finally in the finals.
Big Rich, yes. The NBA Finals begin tomorrow between Golden State and Boston. But when we left off last week, Boston and Miami were deadlocked at 2 games apiece in the Eastern Conference Final. What happened at the end of that bizarre and unpredictable series?
Well, as we said, the winner of Game 5 wins what percentage of the series?
82%.
82%. So Boston comes through, wins Game 5. They're going home. There's no way they can lose, right? Everybody was falling off the Miami bandwagon. Everybody was done with them. They had, 280 and 82-point games. Horrible. There's no way that Boston's going to lose at home, right? Well, they did. So Boston, once again, erratic play, and they lose Game 6. Then everybody's jumping off the Boston bandwagon. Everybody's saying Miami's got it now. Jimmy Butler had a great game. He had 47 points in Game 6 or something like that. So he had half the points. He looked like Jimmy Butler was back. We had buckets going for it. And what does he do in Game 7? Falls apart. Game home loss again. Unbelievable. 3 straight home losses. Joe, how is this happening?
It was unbelievable. I didn't see it happening at all, obviously. Miami scoring 80 in Game 5 and then 111 in Game 6 in Boston. So up and down. Even in that Game 7 was up and down. Miami's down 11 with less than 3 minutes left. They're done, right?
Think that it would be over.
Wrong.
Oh.
The Heat scored 9 straight points, got the ball down 2 with 17 seconds left when Jimmy Buckets attempts a 3-point shot to take the lead. It misses. Boston ends up winning by 4. First of all, Big Rich, what did you think about that shot?
Man, he looked like he kind of pushed it up a little bit, didn't he? But he was open, wasn't contested, and he's the best player on the team, taking the shot at the end of the game. I don't really have a problem with it, as I picked Boston to win, and definitely wasn't even close. But I don't have a problem when your best player takes a shot at the end of the game.
Well, I thought at the time Miami should have tried a 2-pointer. Maybe you make it, you tie the game. Maybe you get fouled, you make 2 free throws. Maybe you make the shot and get fouled. Take the lead. The 3-pointer kind of seemed rushed to me. Of course, if he makes that shot, he possibly wins the game, and it's a totally different story. It's a great shot.
It's easy to Monday morning quarterback after a Game 7. But like I said, I think if your best player got the shot at the end of the game, if it had been somebody else making the shot at the end of the game, might have been different story. I think everybody was like, why didn't Butler shoot the ball? So I can see both sides of that.
Yeah. Any overall thoughts about that series?
Well, I think Boston showed they have a kink in their armor. I mean, how do you be up by 11 points? How do you win Game 5? They had constant double-digit wins, leads that they let go and gave up. I mean, what was Kobe Bryant? He was the Black Mamba. Why was he the Black Mamba? He had a killer instinct. He knew how to bury teams. Michael Jordan knew how to bury teams. Larry Bird know how to bury teams. The Detroit Bad Boys know how to bury teams. I don't see Boston having that right now. I think that sometimes they get up by double-digit leads and then they blow it. So I mean, that's something to keep in their armor. Something to look at for sure as we go into this Golden State series.
Golden State also had a couple kinks in their armor earlier in the series, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Right.
I would say in that particular Miami-Boston series, the home team losing the final 3 games, that was very strange. I don't remember that ever happening before.
Well, if you were paying all that money for those tickets, I'm going to put that in you got hosed section.
There you go. So in the West, Golden State took care of business, winning comfortably in Game 5 and in the series. What was your take on that?
Well, I mean, it just seemed like Golden State is just hitting on all 4 cylinders. They look like the Splash Brothers, that have been to 6 out of 8 final series. They've been there before. They know what they're doing. They have experience. If you look at the experience going into the finals, Boston has 0 finals experience. On the other hand, Golden State has 123 games played by their starters and finals experience. So that's a big thing going into this series.
Right. Well, Golden State did have some bad moments, not so much the series against Dallas, but against Memphis.
Sure.
They were down like over 50 points in one game.
On a closeout game. On a closeout game, and they came out, and same way they could have closed out Dallas. So they have a road problem with it, I can see. If we look at their record throughout the playoffs, Joe, Boston, their home record is 5-4, where they're 9 wins, and Golden State is 9-0 at home during the playoffs. On the road, complete swing of the pendulum. Boston is 7-2 on the road this year in the playoffs, and Golden State is 3-4. Might be a problem.
Right. So, yeah, you have strength against strength. Golden State, strong at home. Boston, strong on the road. Boston, mediocre at home. Golden State, mediocre on the road. So they seem to cancel each other out.
They do. But one thing that they're very close in all aspects of their, especially on their defense. The top 2 playoff defense, or during the season, also defense efficiency. Boston number 1, Golden State number 2. Now, defense efficiency doesn't tell a lot about the blocks, the rebounds, and the steals. All defense efficiency is how many possessions, and you divide that by the amount of points that the other team scores. So Boston has a 1.34, 0.34 defense efficiency, where Golden State has a 1.044. So they're very, very similar. On rebounds, Boston's averaging 42 rebounds a game. Golden State's averaging 44 rebounds a game. And offensive rebounds, Boston's averaging 8 rebounds, and Golden State 9 rebounds a game, offensive rebounds. So they're very, very similar.
Yes. Well, Golden State, when they win at home, they win very comfortably.
Right. They're averaging 15-point margin of victory, just under 15, 14.87 or something like that. But they also shoot the three much better at home. They shoot over 40% of three-point at home, and that is a huge advantage going into, as they do have home court advantage throughout the finals.
Yeah, and you did mention the experience. That's probably going to be the difference, I'm thinking. Before the playoffs started, though, you did pick Golden State to defeat Boston. Congratulations on getting this far.
I know. I believe that Boston and Golden State play great defense. They play well as a team. There's no bittering going on. The only bittering going on is Green bittering with the referees most of the time. I mean, that's the only drama that they have during their time. And if I gave you a faker take, Joe, what do you think Green will have, over 1.5 technicals or under 1.5 technicals throughout the series?
Oh, I've got to take on the over on that. I'm sure.
So you're taking over 2 technicals. Yeah. He'll probably get one during warm-ups, but I mean, that doesn't really matter. But he is a great defensive player, and he does get in the head of the players that, especially a less experienced, younger team like Boston.
Yeah, I would think the more intense the situation gets, the more likely he'll get a technical, and you can't get more intense than the finals.
Right, and Boston does play great defense.
You might get a little frustrated.
Right. Robert Williams III plays great around the inside tier of the defense. Hartford has been great throughout the whole series. And we have the defensive player of the year, Michael Smart. So I think this is going to be a great game, great series. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and the last round I had Golden State and Miami advancing. Obviously, that didn't happen. Still, my series predictions are 12-2 in this year's playoffs. Not bad in the finals. I've got Golden State in 6. I'm banking on that experience.
Even throughout the series, the whole season, Joe, that they played 5 times, and Boston won 4 of them, but that's without Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, I mean, these guys have not played together all year until now. They're healthy. They're ready to go. I'm with you, Joe. I'm taking Golden State in 6 also.
All right. We're in agreement. I might get this one right then. You've been on fire. That's awesome. I love the Warriors' ability to go on these scoring streaks. It seems like in 1 minute they can score like 10 points. They just go off.
Yeah, just like Miami scored 11 points in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
so that's the same thing.
Only better for the Warriors for some reason.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and we're looking at the spread in Game 1, minus 3.5. What do you think about that?
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm taking Golden State. I'm dropping that 3.5. I could see it being a double-digit win. 2 grueling. We got to tell Boston's been through a grueling playoff. They have not had an easy series. They went through the Brooklyn Nets, with playing, with
Durant,
Kevin Durant, and Irvin, Kyrie Irving. I mean, that's a tough series. No one wanted to play them. They knocked them out in 4. Then they go get the defending champions with Milwaukee and playing probably the most dominant player in the league.
Yes, no Chris Middleton in that series, but Antetokounmpo was playing.
Antetokounmpo is probably the most dominant player in the league right now, and then going against the best team, Miami, with the 7-game series. So now they're in Miami. They have to travel all the way to Golden State. I don't like it when they had after the Milwaukee series when they played Miami. They looked a little sluggish against Miami in Game 1. I see the same thing happening. I see the Splash Brothers splashing. Even the pool's going to be splashing. So I see everybody's going to be splashing. Wington, they look great. I think that they're going to definitely win that game, and probably by more than 5 or 6 points.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Game 1, and then there'll be some time off. The next game won't be till Sunday. Maybe Boston might have some time to recoup a little bit from the travel in the last series, and maybe we might see a different...
Right, because every one of these series were every 2 games before. Now we're getting a 4-day rest. Definitely, I think that's an advantage to Boston.
Fantastic job, Big Rich.
Well, thank you, Joe. You did an awesome job picking. You were, 12-2? That's just amazing.
Our next guest today and covering hockey is Gator Gates. How are things going, Gator?
Oh, so excited. Our 1-year anniversary. Loving it, Joe.
Gator, when we left off last week in the Eastern Conference, Tampa Bay had already swept Florida, but Carolina and the New York Rangers were tied 2-2. What happened in the rest of that series?
Yeah, Joe. On Thursday was Game 5, and the Rangers lost 1-3, and I kept Carolina's home streak going that we talked about last week. But the Rangers only had 17 shots on goal, Joe, so that was a stat that sticks out in my head for that game. But the next game was on Saturday, and that was in New York, and New York won 5-2. So what I don't see too much there either, Joe, except for the stat that comes out of me is that the Rangers had 2 for 5 on the power play, where the Carolina had 0 for 3. And Carolina did have 39 shots, but again, Shesterkin only let in 2 goals out of 39 shots, so that was excellent.
Yeah, things stayed true to form until Game 7. That's going to be my host story, and a little foreshadowing. That's what they call it in the business. Of course, in Game 7, the goaltender, Antti Ranta, got hurt.
Yeah,
and,
at 2-0. It was 2-0 at that time, and then he gets hurt, and then Rangers win that game to break that home streak that Carolina had. Scored 6-2, Joe.
Yeah, so that was a big loss. Mm-hmm. In the West, Colorado and Edmonton were both up 3-1 going into last Wednesday night's action. And one would think Colorado would close things out at home against St. Louis Game 5. Edmonton would have a tougher time winning Game 5 at their hated rival Calgary, but just the opposite occurred. Gator, explain what you saw.
Well, see, you're right, Joe. St. Louis was at Colorado on Wednesday, but the question on all the bettors' minds wasn't really which team to take. It was if we were going to take the Avalanche puck line or not. The puck line was at even money, and the money line was at a -270. But yeah, they pulled the St. Louis pulled their goalie with about 3 minutes left. Colorado had a couple of chances to get the open net, didn't happen. 56 seconds left, 56 seconds left in the game. St. Louis ties it up, and then in overtime they won it with like 3:38 left, or going into the overtime 3:38.
Yep, I was surprised Colorado lost that Game 5 at home. Mm-hmm. Edmonton won that Game 5 at Calgary. That cost me a ticket. Mm-hmm. I hit everything else. A real bummer for me there.
That was a crazy rivalry for me, Joe. I thought it was going to be more intense, and it did show that in the first couple of games, but then it kind of just became a regular season.
Right. So, Gator, now we've reached the conference finals, and yesterday Colorado took a 1-0 lead over Edmonton. How did that game go, and what should we expect for the rest of the series?
Okay, well, both goalies, Darcy Kempster got hurt and had to leave the game, and they did pull Mike Smith for Edmonton. So, yeah, that was a pretty wild game, Joe. The goals were coming at a premium, or were just coming left and right.
8-6, Colorado won.
Yeah, so, boy, I don't know. I think both goalies are probably going to. Well, Kempster might be out for Colorado. I'm not sure for the next game, but boy,
Yeah.
I think we're just going to see more high-scoring games.
Yeah. Obviously, both teams have offensive firepower, questionable goaltending. Pretty safe to say we're going to see a lot more scoring again next game for sure.
I think so, Joe. I do.
Yeah. So what is your prediction for the series?
Okay, well, I think that Colorado's going to win in 6. It could go to 7, but I think they're going to win it in 6. And then on the other side, in the East, the Rangers have the home ice advantage. And I think that being a home dog tonight, they're going to win. But I do see Tampa Bay finishing it off in 6. I would like to see 7 in that one, but it could very well go 6.
Yeah, well, since the playoffs started, I've had Colorado reaching the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm not going to switch now. I also like Colorado in 6, and the over seemed like a good bet until further notice.
Yeah.
After just scoring 14 in the last game, and the total is still 7 for the next game. I've never seen a total higher than 7 in a regulation or playoff hockey.
Yeah, neither have I, Joe.
So, yeah.
There was a time it was always 5.
Oh, yeah.
Never seen it. 6 was like, wow.
The rules have changed. The game has changed.
Yes.
Obviously, in the East, we're starting that Tampa Bay New York Rangers series tonight. You said you had Tampa Bay in 6, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And then again, I think the Rangers, they are a home dog tonight, so I expect them to win. And I think Igor is probably the best goalie. I know everybody's going to say Vasilevsky is, but Vasilevsky has a team.
Okay, well, this is the classic rest versus rust matchup. The Rangers just finished the Carolina series on Monday, so they have 1 day of rest, while the Lightning swept Florida a week ago Monday, May 23rd. In hockey, who does that favor? I mean, it seems kind of obvious, you would think, that the team with the more rest would have the advantage as the series goes on.
I don't think so, Joe. I see it the other way, where you get into a rhythm, and now all of a sudden that rhythm stops, and you have to get back into it. So to me, if I'm a coach of a team, I want to play 6-7 games, just to keep my guys hungry.
Well, that's interesting. That's contradictory to what I was thinking. But you still have Tampa Bay winning that series in 6. So you're just like the Rangers early in the series. And as it goes on, Tampa Bay takes over.
I think so. And then, to me, the X factor is all Igor. If Igor can keep playing the way he has been, sure. But maybe it'd be like Carey Price when he was playing as good as he was, and then in the Stanley Cup didn't. Maybe that could happen. I don't know. That's my X factor.
All right, so we both have Colorado beating Tampa Bay in the final, apparently. Okay.
Like I said, when those Vasilevsky goalies, you got to get them moving post to post to score those goals, and I think Avalanche can do it. I think Edmonton can do it too.
Well, notes to keep track of. I keep mentioning it every week, it seems. Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay. Astounding record of 17-0 after a playoff loss. So, and he's given up a grand total of 1 goal in his last 7 series deciding games. So, if the Rangers win a game, which I'm sure they'll win one, take Tampa Bay the very next game.
Yeah, it would make sense, Joe.
It really is unbelievable, these stats. The Ranger goalie, Igor Shesterkin, he's a finalist for the Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player. He'll have to be amazing to match Vasilevsky. I don't see it that he can compete with him.
Well, again, Joe, he doesn't have the team in front of him like Vasilevsky does, and that's where I give the edge to Igor, because they shouldn't even be in the playoffs right now, Joe. They shouldn't even be where they're at. So I give him a lot of credit.
Well, I think both are going to play well, though. I'm going to be betting on unders in that series. Just the opposite of the Colorado-Edmonton.
Yeah, we have 2 way different series here. That's for sure. We have a goalie one in the East, and we have high flying in the West.
Excellent job, Gator.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it so much.
Stepping up to the plate now is our baseball correspondent, Rockin' Ronnie McKinnon. Welcome to the show, Ronnie.
Joe, thanks for having me. Great to be here. It's our year anniversary. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is amazing. A year can go by so quickly. What's the news this week in Major League Baseball, Ronnie?
Well, Joe, we have. I'm going to go through some of the standings. We still have both New York teams in first place in the East, in the AL and NL, the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets actually already won earlier today. They've won 5 in a row. They're 35-17, and they've actually scored 266 runs. That's only 4 behind the Dodgers at 270 for the most runs scored in baseball. The Yankees, they have only allowed 150 runs. They kind of lead the league in that, or the Dodgers right behind there at only allowing 154. Toronto is actually won 6 in a row. They're only, but they're 5.5 games behind the Yankees right now at this point. In the Central, Minnesota is, all the other teams in that division are actually under 500. The White Sox, of course, they've had a lot of injuries since the beginning of the year. They're a game below 500, but only actually 5 games back of Minnesota. Then we have the West. Houston is 32-18. The Angels have actually dropped a little bit. They're 5 back. They've lost 6 in a row. And then we have the rest of the teams: Texas, Seattle, and Oakland. Then over in the NL, like I said, the Mets are in first. They actually have the biggest lead of all the divisions. They're up by 10.5 over Atlanta. All those teams in that division, besides the Mets, are actually under 500. The Phillies have lost 5 in a row. Then the Central, we have Milwaukee, but St. Louis is starting to make a run. They're already won earlier today. They're only 2.5 back of Milwaukee in that division. The other 3 teams are below 500. And then the West, the Dodgers still in first. They actually lost the last couple nights to the Pirates, even though the Dodgers are at home. You got to watch, no matter who you're playing, can beat you, and especially this year. So they are 3.5 ahead of the Padres, who lost again earlier today. And then the Giants have been going like losing 4, winning 4. Right now they're 27-21. They've won 3 in a row. They're 5.5 back in that division. And then Arizona and Colorado, not too far below 500, but that kind of rounds out the baseball standings.
Well, are there some maybe some injuries or other news we should?
Well, we have the White Sox have had a lot this year, a lot of injuries, and they were supposed to be better. I think they will be better. Again, they're a game below 500, but Tim Anderson, their shortstop, he's one of the better players in the game. He's batting .356. He had got a strained right groin. He could be up to 3 weeks. He could be missing, and
those groin injuries can be really bad.
They can be bad, yeah. And they've had a lot of other injuries all year with pitchers, starting pitchers. I have mentioned it before. So I think once everybody gets healthy there, Chicago will be making a run at Minnesota as the year goes on. Of course, the Mets, they're rolling, even though DeGrom and Scherzer have both been out, 2 of the top pitchers. They could be out till the end of June, but the Mets, they're still rolling. And then, of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. for the Padres. Obviously, he's had a lot of problems these last couple of years. He could be back from the broken wrist the latter half of this month. And, of course, that's a big deal. The wrist is, with hitting and playing defense. But we hope to see him back. He's a great player to watch for the Padres, and we'll see how that goes.
All right. Any other news in the league?
Picks wise, I will be putting some picks on.
Yes, your picks went 5-4 last week. Not terrible.
Yeah.
Making you 15-10 so far this season.
Yeah, it's 60%. Yeah, it's been tough. It's especially when you go a lot on pitchers, and of course last week we had 2 Cy Young winners, great pitchers having a great year. Burns for Milwaukee, Verlander for Houston, both getting beat, and so that was. Those were 2 of the ones that I lost for sure. So, but it happens. What are you going to do? But I'll be putting some on tomorrow on the site for Friday games. Thursday. Tomorrow being Thursday, I will put some on there, and then they will be for Friday games. And I'm thinking of probably doing another day before we even meet again next week.
All right. Well, one of my favorites, the Women's College Softball World Series, is set to begin tomorrow in Oklahoma City. What should we expect to see?
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting. We had 16 teams. We're down to 8 now. All 8 of those teams will be playing tomorrow.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting. We will have one at 9, 11:30, 4, and 6:30. That's Pacific time, our time. Those 4 will all be on ESPN. It'll be unranked Texas against number 5 UCLA, number 9 Northwestern against number 10 Oklahoma.
Number 1 Oklahoma.
Well, number 1 Oklahoma. Sorry.
Well, I should know because Oklahoma's my favorite team.
Yeah, I was looking at this other one too because number 7 Oklahoma State is also in.
Yes, Oklahoma State
playing Arizona, who was unranked. Mm-hmm. Oregon State at number 14 Florida. But yeah, number 1 Oklahoma. And they've been there for a while, and but these ought to be pretty good games. Then we'll have games 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 throughout Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Losers and losers, winners and winners, and winners and losers until we get to Monday. There'll be either 2, 3, or 4 games, depending on if those series end soon, and then we will go into the World Series finals, and that'll be June 8th on Wednesday, June 9th on Thursday, and then June 10th on Friday if necessary.
Interesting to see 3 Big 12 teams and 3 Pac-12 teams in the final 8, showing their strength. 1 Big 10 team and 1 Southeast Conference team.
Correct.
So
yeah, and
I'm going to lean towards the 2 conferences that have 3 teams in there. And
there you go.
Making some predictions.
And going back to the 16 teams, number 3 Virginia Tech got beat, and number 4 Arkansas got beat, so they're out of it. And personally, of course, I probably will be rooting for UCLA, number 5, but. Yeah, number 1 Oklahoma. Wow, it's hard to overlook that. But you can't overlook any of these teams that are left. Some unseeded teams and knocking out number 3 and number 4. So I think it'll be cool and it'll be exciting and it's fun to watch the women play some softball.
There will be some upsets. Last year, Oklahoma lost their first game. I believe it was to James Madison, who came out of nowhere to make it to the College World Series. But then they ran the table and ended up winning the title.
Correct.
Which is very difficult to do. They had to win 5 games in a row after that. So there will be some upsets.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. I played a lot of softball in my time, and slow pitch and fast pitch. But the women put on a good show, and I hope everybody tunes into it.
And the men's college baseball tournament has reached its regionals. Who's the favorite?
Well, it's going to be Tennessee. Will probably be number 1. They're actually 53-7 overall. There's still 64 teams. Obviously, we haven't got going yet, and but Tennessee is the team that people are looking at because they've been number 1, all year. And but there's going to be a lot of other good teams. That'll be fun to watch. That'll begin Friday the 17th at Omaha, Nebraska. That will be the championships, actually. But they'll have the regionals, the super regionals, and then get to the finals and then the championship games.
Right. Well, I really don't know who to pick. I'll pick Oklahoma, obviously, in the women's, and I guess in the men's, I'll take Tennessee if they've been number 1 all season. I suppose they deserve it.
Yeah, Oklahoma State is actually at number 9. So.
They made both. Oklahoma State made the men's and women's. So.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
Well, they haven't made the College World Series.
Correct, yeah.
That's a little early for that.
Right, and some of the other teams, Virginia Tech and Stanford, Oregon State, Texas A&M, Miami, Louisville, Texas Tech, Maryland, kind of, the top 10, but a lot of different things can happen. So, but Tennessee looks pretty tough, but you never know. That's why we play, right?
Right. We'll see what happens there. And finally, although it's not this weekend, you did want to touch a little on the Belmont Stakes coming up a week from Saturday.
Correct. June 11th will be the 111th time at Belmont Park. It'll actually be the 154th running of the Belmont. And again, our time's Saturday, June 11th, 3:50 p.m. On NBC at Belmont Park in New York. This is 1.5 miles, so it's the longest one of the Triple Crown, and the third leg of the Triple Crown. So I'll be making, Gator probably will too, I'm sure, we'll be making some picks on next week's show, Wednesday, for the race the following Saturday.
Well, terrific segment today, Ronnie. Thank you.
Joe, thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the show. Our football expert here is Big Richard Martin. Big Rich, what were the big stories in the United States Football League last week?
Well, congratulations to the New Jersey Generals and the Birmingham Stallions. They both clinched playoff spots. So as we said, there's only 4 teams that are going, and New Jersey has already clinched the North, and the Stallions have clinched a spot in the South. It was a great weekend of football, even though our picks were not so good this week, Joe.
It was rough. We'll get into the picks a little bit later. Yes, Birmingham stayed undefeated, but for the first time this season, they did not cover the point spread against lowly Pittsburgh. So they got me on that one.
They did, and they were close. And it's just that you're playing the worst team in football. Maybe they just had a little bit of a down game. They were actually losing at halftime. They've come back. I don't know how many games. At least 6 out of 7 of their wins they've been down at halftime. So they're definitely a second half team. They got the home court advantage or home field advantage. So I think that they're can continue to roll. They're definitely the best team in the USFL.
Yeah, well, now that they've clinched, home field might not mean as much because the playoff games are going to be in Canton, Ohio.
Right. So Canton, Ohio, there'll be 2 teams from the north, 2 teams from the south. They'll play, I believe, in the end of June, and then the final one will be at Canton, Ohio on July 3rd.
Okay. Also last week, Houston continued their losing ways, getting outscored 22-0 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, Joe.
To lose by 11.
That was my pick. It was my upset pick. Houston's up by, 11 points in the fourth quarter. I had 3.5. No way I can lose, right? Well, I got hosed too. I can tell you right now, Houston we're going to call them the Titanics because they just continue to sink in the fourth quarter.
We also had our first overtime game of the season as New Orleans outlasted Michigan by 4. The Breakers scored 2 two-point conversions in overtime as the Panthers failed on both their tries. New Orleans didn't even need their third attempt.
I know. As we looked at this, I had we gave up 6 on that point. We both took the Breakers and they gave up 6 points. I'm thinking you score 2 touchdowns, that's 12 points, right? No, that's only 2 points or 4 points. 2 points for each touchdown that they got. So
yes, the USFL overtime rule. Each team gets a total possibly of 3 two-point conversion attempts. But if you score 2 and the other team does not score 2 two-point conversions, you win 4-0, and that's it for overtime. You don't even need your third attempt.
Right. The only way I could have covered maybe with an outside choice, maybe if the defense would have intercepted or scooped and scored, they would have got the extra 2 points.
They would have got the 6. That would have been an amazing come back and push. And you got hosed for anybody who took the other side.
Oh, I sure did.
But it would have been. But that didn't happen. And the other game, New Jersey beat Tampa Bay 20-13. That was the only game in the last 3 weeks to go under.
Right.
Overs
we told you that they're all up in the 40s now. They've started in the 30s on the over. Now their point spread has been adjusted. They're up in the 40s this week. We told you that the big rich pick of the week was take Philadelphia in the over, and they definitely went over. They scored 35 points themselves again. Going back to your game against Tampa Bay, you looked absolutely horrible. He had 3 interceptions. He had like 50 yards passing. His quarterback rating was like 42.3. He got a garbage touchdown at the end. On the other hand, Perez looked great. He's backing it for DeAndre Johnson. He had 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of a 132. He is in control of that Generals. He is the general on the Generals for sure. He's controlling that team. And Darius Victor had 72 yards, and they are running the ball well with a touchdown.
Yep. So overs are now 11-1 in the last 12 games, the last 3 weeks, or 10-1-1 over that span, depending on what number you got. In that Stallions game on Sunday, went off at 42, but almost all week it was 41.5.
Right. So that would have hit if you'd have got it at 41.
Yeah. Yes. Birmingham, New Jersey in the playoffs. We got a couple more teams more than likely to clinch next week.
Right.
So we're going to go on to the predictions. Obviously, last week was tough for us. William Hill adjusted their point spreads, no doubt. I hit just 1 out of 4. Rich, you went 2 and 3. Still, your record is a solid 20 and 12 against the point spread. What are your selections for this week?
Okay, like we said, the only 2 teams that are really into it. I mean, we're in week 8, and only, we know for sure Phoenix is going to win. They're that northern second spot, as Michigan's 1 and 6, and Pitt is 1-6. Pittsburgh Maulers are 1 and 6. So I don't see anybody catching them. And the only one that's close is New Orleans has a 2-game lead over the Bandits. So let's go into our picks this week and see what we can do. New Jersey -9 over the Maulers. They're going to cover for sure. They're going to run the ball. Pitt is a measly 1 and 6. I don't see them. I see a double-digit win. I'm going to stick with the Stars. Philadelphia Stars giving 5 points to Michigan, even though Michigan has been playing better of late. I do like the over in that at 47. So I'm going to take the over on that. Philadelphia scored 30 points a game. Tampa Bay, I'm taking them -5 over the Houston Titanics or Gamblers, whatever you want to call them, but they can't play fourth quarter for anything. And then I'm going to take Birmingham to beat New Orleans this week, which would make it only a 1-point lead game over, which would make it a little bit more exciting for down the stretch. But Birmingham beat New Orleans 22-13 in week 3. I see them only giving up 3 points to the Breakers this week. That one's definitely a great bet.
Well, I'm somewhat in agreement with you. I'm going to go against the grain on the Friday game. I like Pittsburgh and New Jersey to go under 42 points. Pittsburgh games have gone over 42 only once out of 7 tries. The final score when these 2 teams met earlier in the season was 21-13. New Jersey, already in the playoffs, doesn't really need to score and beat up Pittsburgh at this moment. I'm thinking that one's going to be an ugly game.
Well, New Jersey definitely has the best running game. I believe they have the best running game. So I see them, just running the ball like you just said. So that might be a good bet.
Yep. Sunday, I'm trying Michigan and Philadelphia over 47. I believe you picked that one. I totally agree with you. Philly is 5-0-1 over in its last 6 games, while Michigan has gone over 4 consecutive games. Their offense has actually improved.
Right. As
the season has gone on. When they played a month ago, the final was 26-25. I think you mentioned that. And that would be over 47.
Yep.
Absolutely. Also Sunday, I'm taking Houston plus the 5 points against Tampa Bay. Yes, the Titanics. And the over 45 points. In week 3, Tampa Bay beat Houston 27-26. I'm seeing a close game here. Houston should have been close last week. They just fell apart. And in its last 6 contests, Houston is 5-0-1 over.
Okay, that's a good stat right there, Joe.
Yeah. So turning our attention to the National Football League, is there a story worth mentioning as of late?
Well, right now we have the OTAs going on right now, which means organized team activities, and they are voluntary due to the bargaining agreement saying that they're not mandatory to go there. It's highly recommended to go, but notable no-shows. Aaron Donald for the Rams. He is not in a contract, and he's not for sure playing next year. He says he wants to play, but he does not have a contract. He's not under a contract. So I see it getting done. He sounds like he wants to play. Kyler Mo Money Murray, he wants more money. He is not showing up for his OTAs. Debo, I want to be traded Samuel for the 49ers. He is not showing up. And also Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, which didn't go last year also, so that's not a big surprise, as they have a big golf tournament right now in Vegas.
They're warming up right now, hitting some balls in the practice range, or maybe hitting some putts on the putting green over there.
Right.
They got better things to do than go to these OTAs.
I guess. Who would want to go to the OTAs when you can go to Vegas?
Yeah, sounds like a lot more fun. Well, great work today, Big Rich. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and it's great to have our 1-year anniversary on Covering the Field.
Returning to the show to cover and predict a number of different sports is Gator Gates. And Gator last Sunday was an auto racing lover's dream, wall-to-wall action. And it started early in the morning, Pacific time, with the Grand Prix of Monaco. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, that race was delayed about an hour before the green flag waved. First it was the rain, and then it was a power outage. But Charles Leclerc did earn pole, but he did finish 4th after his team made a mistake. Charles made a pit stop, and 3 laps later was asked to make another one. Well, when Ferrari realized that they made that mistake, they told Leclerc to stay out, but he was already coming down pit road at the time. Now, Sergio Perez at 16-1 claimed his third victory of his career by driving superb in the changing conditions. Red Bull finished first and third. Ferrari got on the podium with Carlos Sainz taking second place. But Joe, there's a talk about Monaco might not be on the schedule for next year, and I know it's one of the most boring races, but I see it as like Miami, Joe. You know, the action is not maybe the best, but the party is excellent. Now, they are looking at changing the course, but, you know, the streets of Monaco, I'm not exactly sure if that's feasible, if they could do that.
Now, first of all, congratulations to the Mexican, Sergio Perez. But as far as not having a race in Monaco, I mean, the streets of Monte Carlo, that's just crazy.
I think so too, Joe.
I can't imagine them not having that. That is the most prestigious race on the entire circuit.
But not much action, Joe.
Not a lot of passing.
Not much action, so I don't know. And we're talking about money, I guess. I guess that's why we're having 3 races here in the United States now.
I suppose, but I mean, all the best racers in the history of racing are there for that race. So
now there is talk they might do it by every other year, but we're not. We just have to keep our ears open.
I think that would be a shame, regardless. Just deal with the consequences of the very little passing, and
that's what I think, Joe. I think it would be sad if we got rid of
qualify really fast and you win.
There you go.
Yeah, and in 2 weeks we'll have Azerbaijan, so we'll preview that next week for
Correct.
Formula One. Next up, later in the morning, Sunday, was the Indianapolis 500. What happened at Indy?
Okay, well, we got Scott Dixon. He was on pole, and he did lead 95 laps, but earned 21st because of a speeding penalty on pit road. Now, Pato O'Ward and former Formula One driver Marcus Ericsson were wheel-to-wheel most of the race. With 6 laps left, Jimmy Johnson hit the wall and brought out a yellow flag. That left 2 laps left on the restart, and Marcus went at 14-1, went off at 14-1, and he cruised to his third win in an Indy car. Now, Ericsson never did win in Formula One circuit. He did admit to having a fear on oval tracks, and his other 2 wins were at Nashville and Detroit, which are both road courses. But his average finish on an oval track was 14th out of his 13 starts. Now, Tony Kanaan ended up 3rd, and everybody was wondering if the 47-year-old will be back next year or if he's going to retire. But either way, Joe, Tony had an excellent career.
Yeah, I would think he'd be back just for Indy. He doesn't have to do the whole tour and do every race. There's a lot of guys who just run once or twice a year.
Yeah, that's really good. I didn't think about that, Joe, but that's really good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Ericsson, I don't think he's going to hate ovals anymore. Now that he's won Indy, he loves ovals. Yes, and it was very interesting that they did the restart with 6 laps to go. Jimmy Johnson wrecked, as you mentioned, and they red flagged the race. Just 2 years ago, somebody wrecked with like 5 laps to go, and they just let him just run around the track while they're picking up the debris, and Takuma Sato won the race.
Under yellow.
So what happened in the last 2 years that they changed their mind?
No rule changes, I would guess, yeah.
It's like,
you don't want to race the end under yellow. I don't think anybody does, and that's why even NASCAR does what they try to do.
I think hopefully they learned from that, and they'll do that every time from now on. Any wreck within the that's going to make the race end under yellow, red flag it, clean up the mess, finish the race.
I think so too. I agree.
It's good for the fans. They don't want to see a boring finish like somebody crossing the line going about 50 miles an hour. No. Finally, Sunday, NASCAR staged its longest race of the year, the Coca-Cola 600. The show started about 3 o'clock, didn't end until about 9. What happened there?
Yeah, right, Joe. Well, Denny Hamlin was 10-1 before qualifying for the pole. Then when the race started, he dropped to 6.5. But after 5 hours, 619 miles, and 18 yellows, Denny put his Toyota first across the finish line. Now on lap 192, a 12-car wreck sent Chris Boucher's Ford flipping over 5 times before stopping upside down. Now, the wreck took out Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, William Byron, and my pick, Chase Elliott. Now, Chase did lead 93 laps, and he did win the first stage. Now, Kyle Larson, last year winner, had 2 pit penalties and a fire in his pit stall. With 2 laps left, Chase Briscoe tried to pass Larson and crashed. In the first overtime restart, Austin Dillon and Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Ross Chastain were all 4 wide, and a crash occurred when Larson nipped Dillon and sent several cars spinning. Now, the second restart, Hamlin took the lead from Kyle Busch and won for the first time at Charlotte. So Toyotas finished first, second, and fifth. Ford got third and fourth, and Chevy ended up in 6th and 7th.
Yeah, there was a lot of yellows. 18 yellows.
A lot of action, Joe.
Yeah, that's why it took so darn long. 10 to 1, then 6.5 to 1. Another good hit for NASCAR betting. Next week, we're going to have the Enjoy Illinois 300. Do you have a preview of that?
Well, Joe, since this is the first race, there's no stats on it or anything like that.
I've never raced on this track.
Yeah, that I saw.
No, not the Cup. The other forms of NASCAR have, but not the Cup Series.
Correct. Yeah. So it's hard to predict, but I'm going to take Truex. I think that he hasn't had a win this year yet. He's got to get a win to get in, and he's one of the tops in points. I'm not exactly sure if he is the top, but he is one of the tops in points, so I'm going to take him, Joe.
I will say it's interesting that Money Talks in NASCAR, we're having the Enjoy Illinois 300 just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, being raced in Wisconsin.
Illinois.
So, yeah, it's promoting Illinois and Wisconsin. I mean, do they actually allow that? I guess they do.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously.
Yes, but the race is sold out, so...
Money talks, Joe.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's gonna, at least it's a popular race there. Lastly, the French Open. Tennis's second major concludes this weekend from Roland Garros Stadium in Paris. Mm-hmm. Who is left on the men's side?
Well, my pick, Nadal, he did beat upset Djokovic. So I was pretty happy about that, and I think I got a good shot at it now, Joe.
Yeah, Nadal, he's the 13-time champion here, which is truly amazing. He defeated Djokovic in the quarters. Alexander Zverev upset the Spanish teenage sensation, Carlos Alcaraz. That was a big upset. What was really sad, Nadal, Zverev, and Djokovic were all in the same half of the draw.
Yeah.
The 3 best players.
Yeah, that's kind of unusual, let's say. Don't like it too much, but yeah.
Yes. On the other half of the draw, we have a veteran who's won a major, Marin Cilic. He won the U.S. Open. He's against a match that's going on as we're doing the show, Casper Ruud or Holger Rune, guys people have probably never heard of before. And do you have any, you predicted Nadal. I'm going to come out and say Nadal will beat Zverev, just like you think. Cilic will beat the guy left on the other end. And Nadal will win his 14th French Open title.
Sounds good to me, Joe. Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm. On the women's side, have you been watching what's been going on there?
What I saw, Joe, was that the 7th, 8th, and 9th seeds all got upset.
Well, most all of the seeds have got all upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close.
So much parity in that.
Yes.
Fun to watch.
Well, we got Coco Gauff, the American, is still alive. And she's playing Martina Trevisan and Iga Swiatek, my pick, of course, everybody's pick. She hasn't lost a match in like 3.5 months. She has 32 straight wins. She's against Daria Kasatkina. It's pretty clear Swiatek will beat Kasatkina. Gauff, I'm going to pick, will beat Trevisan. Swiatek will beat Gauff for a second French Open.
Yeah, and they did have that, Joe. William Hill had the field against her.
Yes,
at
the
entire -110.
Yeah, the entire field against her. Yeah, that's
a good price, -110. That's a coin flip.
Well, she's not gonna lose.
There you go.
Okay, wonderful job, Gator.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time for the moments we've all been waiting for. The stories that make us furious about bets that appeared surely to be winners, but in the end something went horribly wrong, and they ended up being losers. It's a segment we affectionately call You Got Hosed.
You got hosed.
So Gator, do you have a You Got Hosed story this week?
Well, yeah, Joe. This Saturday was the UEFA Champions League's championship game in Paris, and Real Madrid won that game 1-0 over Liverpool. But the Liverpool fans were stuck outside for a while, and they had to delay the game for half an hour because a lot of the fans had fake tickets, Joe, trying to get into the stadium. So the crowd was all, mad, upset, and they were trying to jump over the barriers. So the French police decided to use tear gas and pepper spray to calm the crowd down. So they finally did get the fans in the seats and had the game, like I said. But if you had a fake ticket or even a real ticket, Joe, I would have to say that you got hosed.
Well, you got hosed twice because not only did you not get a ticket and get into the game, you got pepper sprayed on top of it. That's not good.
Well, and all the money that it takes to get over there, too. But, Joe, do you have a You Got Hosed story for us?
Oh, yeah, I got hosed by the Carolina Hurricanes and under in Game 7 on Monday. Carolina had been the most predictable team in the NHL playoffs. Coming into that contest against the Rangers, the Hurricanes had won all 7 of their home playoff games. Game 5 winners in series tied 2-2, which Carolina did win. They win the series at a clip of 79%. Pretty strong step. Historically, going into that game, Carolina was a perfect 6-0 in Game 7s. The Hurricanes at home had beaten the Rangers 2-1 in overtime, 2-0, and 3-1. Carolina and under looked like a strong bet, but what was the final score? New York 6, Carolina 2. It ends up Rangers and over, just the opposite. Myself and handicappers like me got hosed.
Very, very. That was because of the goalie, Joe. That was that X factor that nobody sees coming.
Yeah, that injury.
You got hosed.
Well, thank you again, everyone, for listening and everyone who's been a part of the show. It's been an amazing year. We look forward to another year and many more to come. We have a great show, we know. It's all about sports. We're not talking about our favorite movies, our favorite foods. We're just talking about sports betting here. And we're focused on giving you winners. And we're focused on winning some money ourselves. And especially, we thank our listeners, for which we wouldn't have our show. We're looking forward to giving you some winners every single week.
You've been listening to a Covering the Field sports show. Visit us at coveringthefield.com. Email us your comments, questions, and You Got Host stories at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at coveringfield. Thank you to our junior IT, Caden Martin. Thanks to our assistant to the editorial staff, Boots McCage. We will see you all next time for another episode of Covering the Field.